person, incredible human being.
Yes,
We're famous. Yes. Welcome, folks, to the very first episode of the Defiant Weekly. I'm your host, Majid, aka Brooklyn Dad Defiant, aka BDD. And with such a short and very brand new year, there is a ton of insane items happening in the world today, in America today. In fact, it's only been 14 days, and already I have a list here, and it's an incomplete list. It's 12 things that have unfolded in America in the past 7 days. That's insane. So, what I'm going to attempt to do with my very special guest today is attack some of these things and help everybody make sense out of them. My guest today is a good friend of mine. She's been on the show before. She's been on Story Time with BDD, and she has been seen on. She's been seen in several. Hang on a second. Where's my thing here? Hang on. Some technical difficulties. There we go. My guest has been on the JoJo and BDD show on Substack. She has also been seen on the side of Mount Rushmore with myself and Harry Sisson and Olivia Juliana.
Yeah.
And she is a very smart, very intelligent, funny, dynamic, and very hardworking. She is the hardest working person I know. And so it is my pleasure to introduce to you all. You know her very well. She's Joanne Carducci, also known as JoJo from Jerz. Welcome, JoJo.
Hello, Brooklyn. And that picture of Mount Rushmore. It's like, who broke them? But also, thank you, because I'm like, I look okay. I'm like, I kind of look like Kate Hudson in that one. I'm like, all right.
That was meant to be. That was meant to be a slam of us.
Yeah.
That was meant to be a diss. And well, actually, I think I look about 10 years older in this picture. Look at all those wrinkles. I don't have.
I mean, you're made out of rock, you know? Like, what do you You know, it's like stratified, whatever the word is. I was on Harry Dunn's podcast before this, and his podcast is called Pours in Perspective. So you pour a drink on his show. And so when I said stratified, it didn't come out right. But yeah, you're made out of stone, you know. I think we've looked worse.
I'll take it. Meanwhile, there's some guests here. At the very top, we have Jamie Gerald Steele. Hey Joe, she's joining us from Twitter, and so is Melanie Little. And then we have Valerie G, Bernadette, Joanne Kennedy, some of our youth regulars here. And forgive me, folks, if I am a little short on time today. Joe has a sick child at home, so we're going to keep this show short and tight. But here's what we're going to do. Okay, as I introduced intro, I did say I have a list of 12, count them, 12 insane topics that have unfolded.
That's it? It's only 12?
That's an incomplete list. I had to stop because I didn't have time, but I could have easily gotten this list up to 20, 24, 2 dozens, easily. But I'm going to start off by reading this list here. My main topic is, no matter what, we are discussing the rebellion over at the DOJ. There are people resigning in opposition to the department's refusal to investigate, to do a civil a civil investigation of the Minneapolis shooting. So already, I think it's up to a dozen people, and I've heard that there are going to be more people resigning because of that.
It's not cruel enough that they won't investigate Jonathan Ross. They want to investigate Renee Good's widow. Like,
Yeah.
it's just disgusting. Like, it didn't even go close to as far enough as it could have or should have to call them deplorables. This is so depraved and immoral and disgusting and broken. Like, she hasn't been through enough. Their family hasn't been through enough. But this is it's elemental, it's essential for authoritarians. Did we
Yeah.
lose? Are you still
No, I'm here. I'm here. I just gave you full screen there.
I was like, I'm so big all of a sudden. No, but the thing is, it's like this is what they do. This is what they have to do. They have to rewrite history. They're not doing an investigation here, which would be warranted on any circumstance. They didn't even bother wrapping her car. The scene of the crime. They just put it on a flatbed truck and drove it down the highway. Like, this is it's horrific, and she deserves more. Our country deserves more. Her family certainly deserves more. Her children deserve more. It's disgusting, and I will say that, like, seeing all of these people resign, I don't want to say gives me hope, but at least they're standing in the breach and they're speaking out, and that's important. Because every time they move the line, they get to move it a little bit further the next time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I want to jump back on that to discuss another angle on that particular topic. But let me just finish going through this insane list. Trump possibly to invade Iran. We have Chris Murphy calling to abolish ICE at an event last night. The Clintons are going to be held in contempt by the House Oversight Committee led by James Comer. Trump is steadily sliding into dementia with imitating Joe Biden, which was reprehensible. He fell asleep again today. He's bragging about the cognitive thing. The dementia continues unabated. Trump also gave the finger to a worker at Ford, who was then promptly suspended. Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, is under investigation. By the way, it is the same Fed chair that was appointed by Donald Trump himself, who wonders who could have been so dumb to have appointed Jerome Powell. Greenland, going to take Greenland whether they like it or not. The words out of the mouth of the president. And when I say the president, I mean the acting president of Venezuela, who apparently he has just appointed himself acting president of Venezuela. He's getting a visit from Maria Machado tomorrow, the recipient, this year's recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. And the question is, well, we already know that it's non-transferable. Is she going to give it to him anyway? And is that going to help her cause? And then Sasha Riley. For those of you who have not heard the name Sasha Riley, keep your eyes and ears open. It is a very intriguing story in which a decorated Iraq veteran was trafficked as a very young man, says he was trafficked, and he is ready to testify against people who have abused him as a trafficked young boy. When I say young, it was as young as 9 years old. And he has named some names, some pretty heavy names. I'll get into that a little bit later. And last but not least, we'll touch on my Substack, if there's time, which is about the Minneapolis shooting and also the blue. Do you remember the blue and black dress?
Yeah. You saw blue or you saw black, depending on your gender or your age or something?
No, it wasn't that at all. It was It was the dress itself was blue and black, but some people saw white and gold.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and this was just one picture, and it was only one dress. It wasn't magically two dresses. It was one dress, but people saw what they wanted to see, and they
Yeah.
were very passionate about it. And that's what this Minneapolis shooting has turned into, and that's what my Substack is about.
Yeah.
But let's pivot back to the DOJ resignations. I feel like a that's a sign of something that could be trouble for, hopefully, for Donald Trump. That there is an open revolt at the DOJ. First of all, the guy one of the main people who is resigning from, let me put this up on the screen here. One of the main guys who's resigning is Joseph Thompson, and he's leading the fraud investigations in Minnesota. You know that thing that um, Nick Shirley,
Mhm.
the soon to be recipient of the Pulitzer Prize, if it was up to JD Vance, the guy who doesn't know the word benevolent. That
Mhm.
guy was making a
Mhm.
big deal out of fraud in Minnesota. And if you really care about fraud in Minnesota, why are you chasing away people who are investigating it already?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, unfortunately, kind of like the press corps leaving the Pentagon. Um, unfortunately, and I appreciate them, you know, not tolerating this, but unfortunately, what happens when these public servants leave their posts is that they either fill them with lackeys and sycophants or they don't fill them at all and justice is not done. I hate that that's the binary choice right now because it shouldn't be, but I'm glad at least that they made the right choice, not to participate in any of this lunacy and that injustice. Um, I mean, at some point, like there going to be no guardrails. For now, the courts are holding ish, right? Like more than many other institutions, but that's fleeting. And here we are, we're only a year in. So, who's to say what happens a year from now or a year after that or in 6 months? Um it is grotesque commentary on the state of affairs that these are people who are not necessarily political but were willing to do Trump's bidding in the fraud cases, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that's a bridge too far. That he's gone so far, that they've
Hmm.
gone so far that they had no appetite for all of this. There will be someone who will. There's an Alina Habba out there. There's a Lindsay Halligan out there, right? Like
Yeah.
they're gonna find. I sometimes think my capacity to be shocked shocks me because I can't believe there's this bottomless sort of like pool of reprobates that are just like, yeah, I'll do that. But
Yeah.
there are,
Yeah. And the thing is that you mentioned is it Lindsay Halligan?
isn't it?
And yeah, and Alina Habba.
Yeah.
Um, those are two of the least qualified people, you know, and that's the problem. Like when you have a guy like Donald Trump, your pickings are slim, your options are few, because anybody who cares about their reputation, is not going to want that job working for Donald Trump. I mean, look at what he's doing uh with his lawsuits. He's got one against or an investigation against the Fed chair, Jerome
Yeah.
Powell. How
Yeah.
insane is we're at that stage right now where if you ask somebody, have you ever seen this before? The answer 10 times out of 10 is going to be no, because everything he's doing is unprecedented. Everything. He's flipping the bird to what's this guy? To what's his name?
TJ Sabula.
TJ Sabula, who, by the way, TJ has a little a GoFundMe going for him.
Yep.
and I think it's a couple of hundred thousand, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think it's last time I checked, it was 400,000. Yeah, that picture is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I think you're giving his hand too much credit for its size. Yeah, and it's not black. Like his hand is well, maybe you could count for the makeup. But TJ, this is what my Substack tomorrow is going to be about. I spent a lot of the day at a car dealership getting my car fixed, but I wrote a Substack for tomorrow about raising a glass, whatever you're drinking, raising a glass to TJ. That is a hero who met this moment. And by the way, the UAW, unlike Ford, is now standing behind him and said that even though they don't encourage people to, say things that are abusive, whatever, in the workplace, that we live in a country where free speech is still a thing. So they have his back. And so kudos, and I'll lift a glass to the UAW, even if Ford, the guy was basically like supping at Trump's taint yesterday. So
yeah, the UAW is the United Auto Workers, right?
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let me
And
see.
they've got their guys back. That's how you're supposed to do it.
In case you guys have not yet seen that, let me just throw that clip up on the screen.
So he's already said it.
Yeah, he said it twice. Wait, I just, it kills me how petty and small. Like, he is so bothered by this dude. He said "F you" twice to him as he's walking, and he can't get it out of his system. He's going to be talking about this for months. This thing.
That he has asked at least 5 people in his inner circle what kind of retribution he can get against that man. That, make no mistake, like, he at least wants him fired, but he is drunk right now on this idea that he can just dispense with anyone who dares to humiliate him or stand up to him or anybody who serves him. So I'm sure this is a person who thinks he can just grab Greenland by the fjords, and that he thinks that he can have his way with this guy in Michigan. And I'm sure he's not done trying to figure out what kind of retribution he can have, and he will not stop short. He will put his name and his likeness, etc., out into the public's domain more than it already is, to threaten his life. I mean, we know that this is going to happen. It's going to fester because he's a malignant narcissist and he has an eggshell fragile ego, and someone dared to humiliate him and force him to have to show something that he used to pretend he wasn't doing when he would swipe his forehead or he would rub his cheek or his chin. And now, he knows he's not ever going to have to seek re-election. Whether or not he's going to have another term is another question, but he doesn't need any, favor with the American people. So he's just doing it. But he hit his Achilles heel. He pressed that button. The Epstein files, the pedophile protection, that's the button. And if you don't want people to call you a pedophile protector, then here's a pro tip, PSA, for the people in the back: don't be a protector of pedophiles.
That's right. And you could, I thought you were going for, you could also release the files now.
Sure. You could prove us all wrong. You could prove him wrong. He could prove him wrong all day long. Just release the files you're legally compelled to release, but he's not. And gee, what does that tell us?
Can I tell you, Joe, if it was me, if I was like implicated somehow and I had the ability, and let me clarify, if I was falsely implicated,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how lightning fast, if I had the ability to release those things, I'd be like, all of them out now, boom, done. One day.
Exonerated. One day. Totally exonerated in all caps. I would actually be. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't be anything about, you'll get him in 30 days. I would have people working day and night to get it out the next day. Let's get this out of the way. Instead, he's, any number of things in the news cycle could be considered a distraction from that. And I'll tell you, All right. I know you haven't had a chance to read this thing yet, but um, a friend of mine, Plastic Martyr, you may or may not know her. She's
Yeah.
a wonderful, wonderful person. She was the one who put me up on this yesterday, and I have just been flabbergasted by this thing, flabbergasted. Since we're talking about the Epstein files, so this guy, let me see if I can find the picture real quick. I have it here. Here we go. Okay, so his name is Sasha Riley. That's him both on the left and the right. He is a decorated Iraq War veteran, um, and he has made some very damning and damaging accusations about Donald Trump and about several members of Congress and even one member of the Supreme Court. Um, yeah, but first, let me just tell you. Let me give you the Reader's Digest, and I haven't listened to all the audio. There is a Substack. I will post the link to that Substack after the show in this tweet thread. It's pretty wild. So, a woman by the name of what's her name? Lisa Noel Voldeng. She interviewed this guy, and there are audio tapes, about 6 of them, I believe, in which he describes this child trafficking sex ring in which Donald Trump is in charge. He's the ringleader.
Oh.
According to Sasha Riley, Donald Trump is the guy calling the shots, and he describes Jeffrey Epstein as like a middle manager kind of guy, like a gopher almost, taking orders from Donald Trump. Yeah. And he said his own father sold him into sex trafficking, which is horrendous. And he said he's witnessed snuff films in which little girls were killed in front of him. And somebody told him when he was very young, like he looked shook after one of these incidents, they told him, "Don't worry, boys are hard to find."
My God. My God.
So, yeah. The juicy part of this is that he says he is willing to testify against Donald Trump, Andy Biggs, Jim Jordan, Lindsey Graham, and Clarence Thomas.
Wow, that's quite a collection, and not a one of them surprising.
All of whom he accuses of these heinous things. Oh, wait a minute. Some of those, let me clarify. Some of those he says he cannot verify. I think it was Clarence Thomas. I think Clarence Thomas he couldn't verify, and some other ones. But there's some shocking things in which he also describes Donald Trump killing puppies with his bare hands.
What?
That he had. Yeah. It's. I would advise, if you are highly sensitive, if you are triggered easily, maybe forego listening to those audio tapes. They are hard to hear.
Yeah, that's awful. That is absolutely awful. I'm so sad for what happened to him, and my God, like, he should testify. He absolutely should testify. They should. Ironically, Jim Jordan is the head of the Judiciary Committee in the House. Jim with a G, unlike Whole Milk with a W. In case you missed that little gem, where Donald Trump needed people to know that this kind of hole starts with a W. Because you didn't know.
No, wait, I didn't see that. Are you kidding me?
Oh, I wish I could make this. I wish I could make this up. No. Just like the word groceries, Donald Trump wanted people to know today. It was very important for him to know, for them to know that this is the hole that begins with a W when you're referring to milk, because you might have been confused. You might have thought you were going into a milk hole, which sounds like something out of a Stranger Things episode. But no.
He's
Yeah.
he's discovering new things every day.
Yeah. Just like the Prince of Wales that also has an H.
Oh my
So that's
God.
Wales, and this
Right.
is whole milk. Not
Forgot
like
about that.
unlike Cool Whip. Yes, whole milk. Sorry.
And wait,
Jim
can you find this? Can you find this whole milk at
sent it to you?
Yosemite?
Oh yes, you can find this whole milk at Yosemite after you have your Cool Whip. Yes, and then you order your groceries and you provide your ID so you can buy your cereal. Yes, all of those things, because he's a very stable genius who also bragged again about passing many cognitive tests because he drinks milk with a W.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody in the comments said in the interview we find out why he keeps shitting himself.
What?
But I think Noel Kasler already answered that for us, right? About
Yeah,
the whole
Noel has
diaper
been.
thing.
Oh God, yeah, Noel, because Noel was he was a handler, I think a talent handler, wrangler, whatever they are,
Yeah.
on The Apprentice. He has so much tea, and he is a brilliantly, viciously funny human being and wildly creative, also creator of all things. And yeah, he has spilled all the tea about Trump soiling himself, defecating in front of people in his little fake boardroom that was completely created. That was not real.
Yeah.
Shocker. They built that because the boardroom that he had was pathetic looking and run down and did probably not as gilded as the cabinet room he likes to use now. But yeah, so Noel, and real fast story about Noel. Sidebar on Noel. You and I were at the White House.
Yeah.
Humble flex one time, and there were about 15 of us in this room at a big long table, and I was sitting in the middle. On Allison Gill was on one side of me, Noel was on the other, and we had a bunch of people come in from the administration because of the Hatch Act. They were not campaign people, they were administration people who wanted to field our questions about things going on in the administration, because that's what you do. And so one of the gentlemen who came in, his last name was Bader, and it was dead silent, and Noel leaned in and said, "They call me Master Bader." And I let out the loudest laugh ever, and everybody, as soon as they introduced him and Noel did that, everyone thought I was laughing at him, at Mr. Bader, and I wasn't. For the record, it was not you, Mr. Bader. It was Noel. Yeah.
Poor Bader.
Poor Bader. Master Bader. And he said it just like that. So
let me ask you, do you think there's any truth to the accusations by Sasha Riley?
Look, I believe all women, right? Except for Tara Reid, who's a low-life liar.
And also a newly
Russian citizen.
Citizen of Russia. Yeah.
I mean, I want to defer to believing before disbelieving when someone shares something so horrific. I believe a lot of survivors are of that mind, which is weird to me that people like Nancy Mace, who is a survivor, says that she doesn't believe E. Jean Carroll. I believe you should believe them until otherwise proven you shouldn't. I also believe that people should have their stories told and in the public sphere. I believe that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton should testify if they're compelled to. Look, I think if we're going to say we want accountability across the board here, we can't cherry pick what that means and who. So your turn, MAGA, tag, you're it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not hard. If you did this, if you participated in this, if you raped young children, trafficked young children, covered up for those who did any of those horrific acts, murdered people, children, etc. I don't care what letters next to your name. I don't care what party you're in. I don't care what your politics are. No one should care. The justice should actually be blind.
just so you know, the woman who wrote this or conducted this interview said that she has distributed copies of her tapes and her notes to several different countries and people from different press organizations. She seems very convinced in the in how real his stories are. I mean, when I first started thinking about the puppy story, I was like, that seems far fetched. And then I thought about it. And I was like, he does seem to. First, he doesn't have a dog, right? And every time he is being derogatory about someone is, she was begging like a dog, and she was this like a dog, and everything is like a dog to him. And it seems like he doesn't value the lives of dogs very highly at all. So, it's possible. I think it's highly possible. And the fact that it was a little boy involved in this, I think that might be that bridge too far that we've been talking about. Like, oh, he would never lose any votes. That might finish him. If this is true, if even a few of the things out of this guy's story is true, that would finish him, I think.
Look, there's no other conclusion to draw at this point for everyone. It's not just, and I say just, it's like a very heavy just. It's not just that he's covering up for pedophiles. We know from Marjorie Taylor Greene's accounting and other people who were witnesses to a phone call he had with her that one of the things he said was, "You're going to hurt my friends," because she wanted to release these files and voted to release these files. He went so far as to bring Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room to try to threaten her not to vote to release these files. There is something, and I probably not a singular thing, as we know. They have spent many man hours combing through these files to expunge his name and redact his name and his likeness, and then accidentally, because there were millions of files, things got out with his picture and his name, and then what happened? They retracted those. They took suddenly those things were no longer online. Suddenly those things were no longer searchable. This 2 + 2 = 4. Okay, like we're not idiots. Even his most loyal people have identified that this is horrific handling of a scandal, and it only further implicates him every single day. We move further and further from the truth. Again, these were the people who promised accountability for this. They had those influencers at the White House and handed them those binders, and Pam Bondi said it's on her desk. And then all of a sudden, we learn that he finds out how much she's in there, and then all of a sudden there's nothing to see there, and then he has to be compelled by law to release them. Guys, like, it's just not a bridge too far. It's a natural conclusion that we have to all collectively reach. And I'm talking to you, Mon Pa MAGA. He's hiding these files because they implicate him. And like, every data point that is out there is pointing in the same direction with a giant neon flashing sign. And this is the part that like really pisses me off, is that they'll tell me to cry harder over every single thing all day long. And yet they cannot defend this. And so what do they say? But Clinton, but Biden, but his daughter, but. No, friends, deal with what's in front of you right now, because what's in front of you right now is an active cover-up for pedophilia. One of the most infamous pedophiles and child sex traffickers in modern day history, in Jeffrey Epstein. And the last part I'll say about this, no one's been able to defend this either, is he moved Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand person, to say the least. I don't want to identify her as a person.
Right.
She was sentenced to 20 years in a real penitentiary, a real federal prison. She was sentenced to 20 years because of the crimes that she committed against children. Horrific crimes. You listen to any survivor, you read Virginia's book. Ghislaine was the one who grabbed them all. She got Virginia out of Mar-a-Lago, et cetera, et cetera. She was moved from a regular prison where she did not have a bougie life because prison isn't supposed to be fun when you molest children. She was moved to a Club Fed with no explanation, no justification. What Todd Blanche, who was Donald Trump's personal attorney in the Stormy Daniels trial, what he said was that she was being threatened, that her life was being threatened, and that's why they moved her, and it's within their rights to do so because he oversees the division of the Bureau of Prisons. That is not a thing. You talk to anybody who knows how this works. You don't move child sex traffickers. You don't move child rapists. You don't move people sentenced to more than 10 years for these crimes. They did. Now she has a dog. They gave her a puppy. She gets yoga. She has her own private access to the internet, a predator, and they are down the street from a girls' camp.
Wow.
No one's explained this. No, MAGA can't defend it. No, why the media is sleeping on this and doesn't ask Donald Trump to defend this every day, I will never, for the life of me, understand. Never.
Thank you for saying that, because that burns me up. I mean, that's more of a smoking gun than anything right now.
Yeah.
Like the fact that nobody, not Pam Bondi, not Kash Patel, not Todd Blanche, nobody in the regime, I don't call it administration anymore. I call it a regime. Nobody in that regime has been able to offer any type of explanation as to why she was basically given carte blanche as a child sex predator, why Donald Trump is easily able to disrespect members of Congress and Gold Star family members and members of the military and the Senate and Congress, but he can't say anything derogatory about Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted child sex predator, or still about what's this guy's name, Jeffrey Epstein, who's been dead 5 years. Still, the worst thing he said about him, he's called him a creep. That's it.
Yeah.
A creep.
Meanwhile, here's who they're investigating. They're investigating Bolton. They're investigating Comey. They're investigating Tish James. They're investigating Slotkin. They're investigating Schiff. They're investigating Powell. Mark Kelly. They are investigating all of these people, these patriots, and I don't like John Bolton, so let's be real here, okay? But nonetheless, who would have thought Jerome Powell would be the hero of memes in standing up to Donald Trump? But hey, you know what I mean? Like, I'll take it. But they aren't. Here's who they're not investigating. Here's who they're not going after. They're not going after anybody. Nobody. Literally nobody in the Epstein files. They could say they're going after Bill Clinton. They're not. They're not going after anybody. They're not going after anybody who's committed white-collar crimes, which used to be a thing. Instead, what they've done is commuted the sentences and or fully pardoned white-collar criminals and absolved them of the money that they stole from people. They're not going after any of these people, but they're going after the people who stand up to them. They're suing the state of Minnesota for having equitable hiring for DEI, so that that people weren't discriminated against, so that equal representation in their workforce. Those are the people they're using the Department of Injustice, because you can call it a regime. I agree with you. It's a regime. It's not the Department of Justice. There's nothing even justice infused about what they're doing over there. They're going after people Donald Trump doesn't like. They're not investigating Jonathan Ross. They're not investigating that shooting. And Mark Wayne Mullen, who is the second dumbest United States senator because Tommy Tuberville exists, he said today, we don't need an investigation. We saw what happened. Like, I mean, and by the way, that's a low fucking bar, okay?
It is.
Tommy Tuberville thinks the three branches of government are like Flotsam, Jetsam, and I don't know, Old Miss. The guy doesn't have a fucking clue. And Mark Wayne Mullen is just marginally smarter than him, because I think he probably knows that what comes out of his ass is his own fart. Sorry, am I allowed to swear? I just swore.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. Sorry.
We're past the 5-minute mark. Yeah.
Let's just look at the people they're investigating versus the people they're not. I mean, they don't want any accountability for bad guys, because Donald Trump is a bad guy who wants to be surrounded with other bad guys so that him being a bad guy doesn't look bad.
Joe, why isn't this issue, why isn't this a bipartisan issue? I mean, it was MAGA over the past 4 years that has been raising hell over it. Why aren't they as laser focused on getting some answers as the rest of us are? I mean, this is, if you're looking at a totem pole of crime,
Yeah.
with like, let's say jaywalking is all the way down at the bottom, and and then pickpocketing is up a little higher, and assault, and then you got murder. I would put, child sex trafficking all the way pretty much at the top. Maybe worse. I don't know if it's worse. Is it worse than murder? I think it is.
I
I
think it
feel like it
is.
is.
I think it is. I think as human beings that we have an unspoken understanding that you protect children. I mean, you protect the most vulnerable, but in particular children, right? Like I think maybe it's naive to think that that's some societal norm that we have all sort of agreed upon. I would have thought if you had tasked me with this question a few years ago that this would be universal, that it would be one of those nonpartisan issues, but
Yeah.
it's a cult. It's a cult. And Donald Trump called it years ago when he said, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and not lose any votes. I believe he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and Bobert Putin with one hand while shouting death to America and like murdering clubbing a baby seal to death at the same time, live stream it on Twitter, and people would say he's so powerful, he's such a patriot. Like, I mean, this is the point. This is where we're at now. They will continue to move the line. I mean, just think about how many times they've had to accommodate this person. He is an adjudicated rapist. He was
Yeah.
found liable of sexual abuse. He is an adjudicated business fraud. He launched and incited a deadly attack on our Capitol. I don't care what anybody says about what he got away with. He didn't get away with it forever, and he was indicted for these things. He also stole our national security secrets, and he kept them in his bathroom. And some of them have surfaced in other places like Saudi Arabia. Things that were missing, things that Donald Trump took and said he didn't have
Yeah.
resurfaced in other countries. Like, think about how many times the Republican Party has moved the line to accommodate him because they are feckless, they are pusillanimous, they are craven, cuckolding cowards, and there is no line when it comes to Donald Trump. There isn't. You look at Ukraine, look at what they did in Venezuela, look at what he's threatening in Greenland. Where are they? Where are Republicans? They've had 100 off ramps and they haven't taken any because they've hollowed themselves out and now they are just a functionary. It's really truly Secretary Mike Johnson, not Speaker Mike Johnson, because he is not the leader of a co-equal branch of government, which many people will tell you is BS to begin with because of Article 1, but that's another conversation for another day. But our expectation that most of them, 99.9% of them, will ever recover the spines that they may have once had visitation with, they're not going to do it. It is too far gone. They have sold their souls. They're not coming back, and we have to understand that. And whatever comes after this, there's not going to be a Republican Party that exists in the way that it ever has before, because Donald Trump has managed a reality TV game show host who is arguably one of the dumbest, most incurious, incompetent idiots on the face of the planet, has managed to turn that party into a cult.
Although I would say that there have been some signs, very small signs, but signs nonetheless, that that Republicans are trying to reclaim a little bit of their spine. Like, there's been an initiative to block him from making a move on Greenland, and this is like a bipartisan thing. It's just unfolding in the past several days. I swear, every day feels like a week compressed. So like when I hear something
by design,
when I hear something 2 days ago, it feels like I heard it 2 weeks ago.
But you saw that Josh Hawley has reversed his vote on that, right?
On what?
On the War Powers Act. So originally there were 5 Republicans that were saying, no, you can't just willy-nilly, invade and bomb a foreign country. Changed his mind. Of course he did. Of course Fist Pumper changed his mind. Again, see, look it up in the dictionary, right? See, cult. There they are. Feckless, pusillanimous, cuckolding, craven, Cowards.
Doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense at all.
I've interviewed people, everybody from Andy Kim to Chris Murphy to, other Democratic leaders to Hakeem Jeffries. I've asked this question of everyone. I don't understand. There are lots of jobs you can do in the world. Lots of jobs. You could be a urinal cake replacer at the truck stop on Route 80. You can be a greeter at Walmart. You check coats at a fancy restaurant. There's a million jobs you can do where you don't have to go to work with convictions, where you don't have to represent any constituents, where you don't have to follow your moral and or ethical code of conduct. A million jobs you can do. Why would you want to be in Congress to bend the knee to the will of a madman wannabe authoritarian who wants to rip your guts out?
I know why. Tell me why. It's all about greed. It's all about greed. That is the reason why Donald Trump covets Greenland so much. When he first started talking about Greenland, back in his first term, we were like, "You silly clown, you buffoon!" But actually, there's oil. There's vast amount of untapped oil there. He suddenly, in the past year, started talking about rare minerals. I wasn't hearing anybody talk about rare minerals until we started hearing him including that in a package deal for peace in Ukraine. It was all about those rare minerals. And so all of a sudden, that's a focus. And Greenland has a bunch of that too. And so does Venezuela. And so he wants to get not just rich, but like filthy rich, like fuck you rich. Like he wants fuck you money. He wants the kind of money. I think you and I talked about that on our weekly Substack live. We were talking about how he wants revenge on the elites in New York who laughed at him, who mocked him for not being a real rich guy. And I think some of the members of Congress, Republican members, and possibly some Democrats, but definitely some of the Republican ones that you would expect would have a spine, have given way, have abdicated their spine in exchange for a payoff. And they want to get filthy rich too. And they believe that Donald Trump is sneaky and devious enough to cover his tracks and to cover their tracks as well. It's almost like a mutual destruction thing. If I go down, you go down kind of thing. So
yeah, let's not talk about going down on Donald Trump. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. No, and look, they all slid that $1 million payday into the big boner bill, where because they were lawfully included in the investigation, the lawful investigation into Donald Trump's attack on our democracy, they managed to get language into a bill that has been passed that pays them up to $1 million a piece for having their phones surveilled because Donald Trump was calling them. And like, you're right. But it's just like, is democracy really going to go out like that? Like a bunch of greedy mofos with a reality game show host who paints himself orange and looks like an Oompa Loompa who stayed out too long. Like, is democracy really going to go out like that? Like, come on.
Isn't that how? I'm not 100% sure because I'm not a scholar of history, but isn't that how Rome eventually fell? Wasn't it like corruption?
I'm also not a scholar. I have a friend that would be a good phone a friend in this
look
moment.
That up.
But I believe corruption is probably at the core of so many fallen empires and or nations, etc. I mean, the human beings are so frail and weak and corruptible and human, right? Like the thing that's so funny to me in many ways is that so much of what we have lived our entire lives and experienced as American citizens has been held together with morality, right? Like morality and the constraints of the human condition, because people who could have taken full advantage in the ways that Donald Trump and his cronies have taken full advantage of didn't. That's it. That's really the difference. I mean, Richard Nixon aside, and God knows there's been corruption that we don't know about and corruption that we do. But in terms of where we are now, there were things that they could have done that Donald Trump said, why didn't they do those things? I would have totally done those things, and did and is.
Oh, you mean about keeping the oil?
Everything. Like
Yeah.
everything. Every single solitary fissure that existed in this very fragile experiment of ours, everything that was already there, um, other people saw in all likelihood and
Mhm.
just walked past. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a
Yeah.
little crack here, they're like, oh, I can do one of two things. Three, I can ignore that crack and go about my business. I can fix that crack so that nobody else sees that crack and thinks, oh, I can expose that crack. I can further expand that crack. I can occupy that crack. And
Mhm.
Donald Trump came along and he said, oh, look at that crack. Has
Yeah.
anybody thought about blowing that crack open? Has anybody thought about filling that crack with their own shit? Well,
Yeah.
Donald Trump did that, but how many people walked before him who didn't? And it just shows you, again, a system of government that was established by human beings is always going to fall prey to human beings. And that's
Mm.
kind of where we are now.
So what you're saying is that he is that guy who happened to come along and be just corrupt and evil and despicable enough to exploit every weakness in our system that nobody else had the enough greed or enough of a lack of restraint to even consider doing.
This is a person who stole from a children's charity. This is a
Yeah.
person who stole from a veterans charity.
Mm.
Think, I mean, this is a person who threw rocks at babies when he was 5, right? This is
Yeah.
this is elemental to who he is. Nobody else probably in the history of American politics at least has been this amoral, this devoid of humanity, this depraved, this repugnant. Like
Oh,
he
wait,
he
you know those gold watches?
yeah.
The gold watches. They still have the people who ordered those gold
Oh my
watches
god, they
from
didn't
him.
get their
They
watches.
still haven't gotten them. Still, and it's been what 6, 7 months. It's
6,
insane.
7. You just
Oh, I
did
did
it. God, sorry to the universe. I'm sorry.
it. You got
Yeah.
you got to show your kids that you did that. You just
They will no, 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 no. No one ever needs to show my kids that I did that. They will literally roll their eyes so hard that, like, they will fall out of their chairs. Yeah. No, they don't like that. They really don't. They don't like it when I say things like, "That's sus," or "You're a baddie." Like, you just can't, or they will die. I love 6, 7. Yeah. Somebody pointed out that this is 26, 27 school year, so every poor middle schooler teacher and high school teacher and some college professors are gonna have to deal with the 26, 7 school year, and I feel so bad for them.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Um, I had wanted to say something earlier, but I forgot what I was going to say. It had something to do with Trump and corruption. Anyway, I do want to say somebody in my replies earlier had sent us a question that I thought was very interesting that I wanted to share with you. I think it's pertinent to what's going on with ICE in general. You know, as Trump has sicked his Gestapo ICE thugs on the Democratic communities in America and is causing more fear and more damage and more chaos than anything else. Um, it doesn't address the underlying situation, which is what are you going to do about immigration? I mean, is the idea that you create enough hell here that people are going to be too scared to come over? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, you have people who are living in South America where there are roving gangs that make these ICE thugs look like Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
So they're already afraid for themselves and for their families, and they're still looking for a better life. And there are employers here who are willing to hire them for very little money. So the employer gets something, the undocumented immigrant gets something, and That's the system that has been going on unfixed for a very long time. And we keep circling this issue, but nobody's addressing it. And when Joe Biden said, look, I can't just close the border, I don't think he went far enough in explaining himself as to why. Like, we have to address this situation. There needs to be meaningful immigration reform. We have to be willing to sit down like adults and say, okay, there are business leaders who have an existing need, and that this is what this guy pointed out to me. Let me see if I can find it in my let's see. Should be here he goes. He says, when you two meet up, you should sit down and really discuss this. Let's take a business in New York as an example. One of you is from Brooklyn, right? Yes. Imagine we open a business in Brooklyn tomorrow and invest $1 million in it. We might say we want to hire undocumented immigrants who are struggling without work and provide them with insurance. However, the New York Department of Labor would eventually show up and slap us with a $30,000 fine for every single person. If we have 10 people, that's $300,000 fine in an instant. Just like that, a third of our total investment is gone. They could come back every single month to fine us again. It creates a ridiculous situation. One, we can't legally hire them to help them out. Two, we can't remove them from the country because people don't like that. Yet we are all required to go work and pay taxes to provide them with housing, medical insurance, and schooling for their children. We pay for everything, but we aren't allowed to give them a job. It's a crazy situation, isn't it? So that is what this reader / viewer is saying. Like, what are we going to do? There's this existing situation. There are needs. Employers have needs. Business leaders have needs.
Mhm.
The people on the other end have needs, and even the taxpayers. The taxpayers. What kind of return are we getting on our taxpayer funds? Right.
Right. And let's not forget that one of the other problems here is that what's going on in the rest of the world is leading people to want to flee. And when you walk away from helping those people in other countries in the world and you abandon them, because at
Mhm.
one time not so long ago, before Elon Musk came in with Doge, which ended up costing us more money than it saved,
Yep.
and Marco Rubio, when they went in to USAID and destroyed it and walked away from human beings who needed aid to survive, you create situations in these countries that make people want to go somewhere. And maybe it's not the United States of America at the moment, but it has been historically so. And I would argue it still will be historically so, because a lot of them probably have roots here. They probably have family here. They probably have something that they can come to and seek here. And we've exacerbated that situation. And AOC talks about this a lot. Like, this is a
Mhm.
global problem.
Yeah.
And under Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and others, they've decided that the United States is going to walk away from all of that, which is ironic because we're regime building in Venezuela and trying to intervene in Iran militarily. Kind of smacks of hypocrisy. But then again, that is one of the only platforms of this
Mhm.
regime. But don't forget, like, we're all old enough to remember that in the summer of 2024, there was bipartisan legislation in the Senate between Langford and others to address
The border
the
thing.
border.
Yeah.
There was legislation that was agreed to by both parties, and Langford is hardly some like left-leaning lib progressive senator.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is as conservative, old school conservative as they come, and that doesn't exist anymore, but it does sort of in him. And
Yeah.
you remember what happened was that Donald Trump, who was running on the border at the time and needed the chaos, needed exactly the basis for what he is waging now to strike fear into the hearts of the American people. He told them, don't
Mhm.
you dare vote for this. All of
Yeah.
his lackeys and his flunkies and his toadies in the Senate, he told them, don't you dare. This will hurt me electorally. He needed suffering,
Mm.
and he needed to make sure there was not any kind of legislative win on this issue to help himself. And here we are now, and he is exacting the kind of retributive cruelty
Yeah.
against other people and American citizens with ICE that is not a legitimate law enforcement agency, partly because they did not pass this legislation that would have been a win for democracy and for freedom and for fairness and for equity and for immigration, which is not a bad thing. Legal pathways to immigration. We are truly, and at least in our inception, well, maybe not our inception, but in our evolution, we are one of these countries that is among very few where we have a statue. She's green. She lives in New York. You may have seen her, that welcomes people to our shores. My dad came here from a distant land. He came here from Lebanon as a teenager, seeking that, promise of America, seeking that shining city on a hill. And it wasn't easy for him, but this country eventually embraced the hard work that he put forth. And he was able to have a beautiful life and raise a family and provide. And that's the American way. It's flawed. It's never been perfect. My God, it's never been just. But we've completely abandoned our principles on these things. And we've abandoned them around the world. And like, people need to realize we are far less safe domestically, and we are far less safe internationally than we've probably been in our lifetimes because of what they are doing. And they're using scapegoats and they, them, those people and brown people and people they don't like to make a case for something that does not exist and is actually really damaging to our country as a whole right now and beyond.
There's so much gold in what you just said right now. I thank you for bringing up how he blew up that border deal, because I swear, just completely flushed out of my consciousness, that was a very, very big deal, because had that border deal gotten passed in Congress, we might have had President Harris in the White House right now. And you mentioned about suffering, and that kind of brings me back to that. You really got to check out that Sasha Riley thing, because one thing that he mentioned is that Donald Trump likes to see people suffer. Suffering gets him off, apparently. And if you think about it, it completely makes sense. People will look at like his base, his supporters will point to the thing like with him giving the finger to TJ Sabula, and yeah, and Sabula, yeah. They look at him giving him the finger, or him calling himself the acting president of Venezuela, and then say, "Oh, he's just trolling. He's just trolling you. That's all." Like, he's the fucking president. Why is he trolling any Americans? His job is not to get his jollies and his kicks off of watching people writhe in agony or anger. His job is to look out for, as President Biden said, not the red states or the blue states, but for the United States. And right now, he's only playing to one audience. He's playing to the audience of people who have these imagined grievances that want to really stick it to these damn liberals. But you know what? A lot of those damn liberals live right next door to your stupid asses too. You know? So when he's doing things that are affecting, blue states, yeah, he's affecting a bunch of you guys too. So
let's just take New York for an example, and I have to go in a minute because kids. But let's just take the state of New York for example. If anyone's ever driven through the state of New York and you leave the city of Manhattan or the boroughs of Manhattan, by the way, not all the boroughs of Manhattan are anti-Trump. Hi, Staten Island, place I've never been to, proudly never been to. Sorry, Staten Island. But if you go anywhere outside of there, past really the Hudson Valley, even, it is Trumpy as I have ever seen in my life. So to clump all of those people into blue states don't like me, and therefore I'm going to make blue states suffer disproportionately, he is sticking it to his own voters. When he took SNAP benefits all the way to the Supreme Court, he was disproportionately impacting his own voters. Like, this is the thing. They are so self-sabotaging, because so many of them think that the grievance issue, that as long as they, them, those people, there's a quote my friend always tells me, I think it was Lyndon Johnson, somebody please put it in the chat, something about if you can make somebody feel, more empowered or something than the
The
lowest
lowest
man.
white man, yeah, if you can make the lowest white man feel like he's better than a black man, not only will he let you pick his pocket,
Yes.
right? Something
Yes.
to that effect.
Somebody knows it. Thank you. Thank you, Trump Reaper. It is LBJ.
Yeah.
I'm calling on my phone a friend who knows that I'm putting this out there into the universe to help me with this quote, because I don't know it off the top of my head. But that's the secret sauce, right? That's it. And at some point, like I'll say this: 2 years ago, there was a cartoon, and it was a bunch of sheep on the farm, and they were looking at a sign and if there was a picture of a wolf on a billboard, and the wolf says, "I'm going to eat you all." And the sheep were like, "I like him. He tells it like it is." And then, of course, the natural progression, right, of what the wolf is going to do. I wrote about this on my Substack in the voice of sheep, by the way, and I even narrated it with as and all the things. And it was one of my proudest moments. Susie and Farmer Trump, right? So, and I sounded like Bobby Jr. in retrospect. And then I took the worm and I cut it the head off a whale. But the thing is that they have all voted for and are cheering for their own demise. And the problem with that, as Darwin would probably attest, and natural selection would probably attest, and evolution would probably attest, is that they're going to run out of people. And they're going to be too late, as they were with the COVID vaccine, and getting the memo that he doesn't give a fuck about any of you. He never did, and he never will. And the sooner some people wake up to that fact, the better. But I'm not counting on a ton of it. But at least we do have some people. We saw it in the New Jersey election in November. We saw it in Virginia. We've seen it in Miami. We've seen it in Georgia. We've seen it in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. We've seen enough people willing to understand that, oh my God, this is so much worse, even though we all told them that they are going to vote the other way. We just need to make sure we have a free and fair midterms, which is another conversation for another day, because I'm not at all convinced that that is the case.
Indeed. We did somehow manage to touch on quite a few of these topics here. I didn't get to really tear into him on his disgusting impression the other day. I think it was yesterday, of President Biden. It just infuriated me because, like, come on, dude. It's one thing that you can't stop yourself from mentioning him in every public speech you make. That's one thing, right? But he was like making fun of him, of President Biden's breathing or something. And this is a cancer patient, for crying out loud, man. For crying out loud, where is your decency? Where is it?
He's a sadist. He is the embodiment of the 7 deadly sins rolled into one saggy, senile septuagenarian that is essentially, ass pick in a used condom and reformed into the shape of an adult male. That's what he is. I mean, he is. There's nothing there. There's no morality there. He says that he can do whatever he wants within the constraints of his own morality. We all know he is a deeply amoral person. And also, there's so many tells there. Joe Biden, again, represents everything that Donald Trump will never be. That's why he hates dogs. Like, dogs are love incarnate. Dogs are, they're loyal. Dogs, they don't serve. I don't want to say that they serve, but they want to serve. They want to please. They want to make people happy. That those are things that are so foreign to him that they're an attack on his senses. It's weakness. That's why he hates women. That's why he hates Joe Biden. That's why he hates anybody like Mark Kelly, who dares to say so much as "do not follow unlawful orders." These are attacks on the whatever core it is that exists in that nebulous goo of what approximates for a soul. So I am not at all surprised that he would go there, that he would attack Joe Biden. But also remember, everything he does, every accusation is a confession, and he is not well. He is ailing, he is senile, he is demented, he is dying. And when he does those things, he's actually talking to and about himself. That's
Yeah.
the thing. So that, like, we know his pathology by now, that anybody in this country, let alone a plurality of people in this country, put that back in power. I think some people have remorse about that. I think not enough do, but that didn't surprise me at all. I think what it did more than anything was highlight just how egregiously awful he is.
I want to end this on a positive note, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I did see some polls earlier today, and he has lost Gen Z, a lot of Gen
Yeah.
Z support. The young voters, which by the way, young voters, come on, man. I mean, yeah, I get it that you were entertained by the Joe Rogans and the Theo Vons and all that, but come on, even those guys are waking up to the reality of the situation. But I thought you young folks were like more on the ball. Anyway, I'm not going to hold it against you as long as you walk briskly away from Trump and do not look back. So yeah, there's like been a 42-point swing away from Trump from the youth, and so that's good. And Chuck Schumer earlier today announced that with there's 4 different states. One is Alaska, one is North Kakalaki, another one is Maine, and I cannot remember the 4th one. But with those 4 states, he believes we have the ability to retake the Senate as well. So let's
We got great candidates in all 4 of those states.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So with that said,
don't sleep on Florida, by the way.
What?
I'm just going to put that out there. I'm putting that out there.
That's crazy talk.
I'm floating that test balloon.
Yeah. But with that said, Joe, I can't thank you enough. I always love our conversations. They seem like there's never enough time for us to finish. I do want to say that I think what I'm going to do going forward is maybe get make one of these wheels, right? And I'm going to spin it, and then we'll talk about whatever.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Whatever crazy topic it lands on. And,
I like that.
But yeah, great conversation with you guys, with you on our very first episode of the Defiant Weekly. So thank you for joining me. And
Sherrod Brown too. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Do you mind if I just correct that quote that we were trying to
Oh yeah.
Because my phone a friend sent it. If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. That is LBJ. So yeah, that's just wanted to correct that because I'm a dork and I have to do that. But thank you. Thank you, Brooklyn, and good luck with the show. I'm so happy for you and proud of you and all things that you do. And I'm glad to be in this fight with you, sitting on the couch naked where you feed me cheese doodles.
Oh yeah,
and chocolate pies of all kinds. So thank you for that.
Wait, don't forget we were like 400 pounds in those
every
memes,
time,
right?
Every time. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but I'm somehow able to make I'm somehow able to put a filter on everything in my existence. I'm actually sitting here as we speak, unable to move because I am in fact 400 pounds. Yeah.
It is amazing. And same here too.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on. Thanks everybody in the chat. I love the lively chat. That's really good. That's awesome. Makes me happy.
Indeed. Let's do this again soon, and just give me 2 seconds to say good night to my
of course
here, and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
And folks, thank you for joining me for the very first maiden voyage episode of the Defiant Weekly, and I look forward to seeing you all here. If I didn't get a chance to answer your question, my apologies. I look forward to doing that in our next episode next week, same time, same place. I love you all. Peace. incredible person, incredible human being.
Yes,
We're famous.
Yes.